Okay, cool. So now here's our third tutorial, and we've made our basic construction of the cube, and we've found the angles on the lid and all that kind of good stuff. So now let's do some of the interior sort of decoration on it, because once again, if you're following me this far, then yeah, you're a wizard. I mean, you're an artist, and you're not going to just let it be all plain. Come on, that'd be silly. Because a real Jack in the Box would probably be a little bit ornate, especially one that was worth drawing. So we won't go too crazy, but how about a little bit of inner decoration for that? Um, okay, so one of the things, maybe, having sort of a beveled interior here. Well, that's easy enough. That's just old hat. We'll just draw a little X right here. And we'll draw right here. And same thing on the other side here. Finding our centers. Cool. And so then maybe making sort of an inner square here, we could go ahead and just go back to our vanishing point. Let's see, something like that maybe. Okay, so going from one branch of the X to the other. Okay, and then I can draw down. And, I might measure this stuff, if I really want it to be accurate. And it's not a bad idea to be accurate. Okay, especially if you're good, especially if you're, if you're going to take the time, then take just that few more minutes and get things nice and right. Okay, close enough. Okay. And so then if I want this one on the other side to be the same, it's just like a lesson that we learned in the very first thing that we did. Just bring it over to the corner, bring it over to the corner, and once again, I'll come back here, and I'll go from the X, and I'll go from the X right here, and you'll see that's going to be pretty good. And once again, if it's close to being right, oh, then it's probably right enough, right? There we go. So I've got two sort of inner places that I can do a little bit of a bevel, and of course maybe something I could do is create a little bit of a border. That's something I could just sort of guesstimate on, right? Don't need to use a ruler for that one. And maybe over here, same deal. Okay, and then here maybe on the bottom, I'll draw a little bit fatter sort of border on there. A little bit more wood. Okay, so we got that. Maybe something a little bit around the top here. And even on the lid, give it a little something. It's those details. That's really what's going to make your drawing worth drawing in many aspects. And how thick or how thin you want to make stuff. Once again, a lot of that goes back to observational drawing, and that's what you should be doing. More than anything else is observation. Okay, so that was all pretty easy. Now what about maybe that whole sort of spinning wheel here, the little crank? Okay, well, if this is a square, because this is a square, we've made a cube, and so this is a square, and then this is a square, the way that we've drawn it out. So we can just draw a circle in here. That's easy enough to do. We'll just draw that nice and flat, draw this nice and flat. Find the measured center. Okay, that seems to be about there. Oh, pretty good. Okay, so there, and there, that is the measured center. Pretty darn close to the center there. Okay, and so then this one's pretty easy. I think I could draw a cube in here. Cube, an oval. just like so. I'm not going to go through all the machinations again. Because that's the other thing. If you're following me this far, you're probably somebody that can handle drawing an oval, especially when it's that square. When they're all, goofy and everything, like, oh, I can understand why you'd want to cheat. Me too. But that one's not too hard. Okay, so that's sort of an outer sphere. Now we're going to put an inner one in here. So I'm just going to go ahead and say, like, okay, how big is it going to be? I don't know. Maybe about this big here. So I'll go back to my vanishing point. So here and here. And that will get me a square inside the square. Okay. And there again, I think that this is something that I could probably fake. Just right there. And if I was to draw that out a little bit, I'll make that a little bit bigger. And I could make it a dome if I wanted to. That won't be exactly the way that I drew the one in my picture, but what the heck. I'll just draw a little crank out here. Okay, so there's a little crank handle, a little cylinder right back here. There it is. So there's the crank, or at least the beginnings of it. And so the dome here, or even making this more of a dome here, that could happen more in the shading and shadowing. You can see here how this one, just the way that I've shaded it, gives it a sense of being rounded, like that. So anyways, remember, a lot of these drawings here, it's all about the wizardry of the perspective, but it's also just good old-fashioned shading, right? Shading and shadows and stuff like that to make your forms. The Jack in the Box itself, that's good old-fashioned forms there for sure. I just said, like, okay, Jack in the Box. I haven't even seen very many Jack in the Box in person, but I know the hamburger place, Jack in the Box. So I said, okay, we got a circle here, which would be a sphere. So on that sphere, I'm going to have the little eyes, and just thinking about how that's going to go, right? So that's the sphere, right? Just like so. Okay, and then maybe, making the nose, how's that going to fit on there? Try and make the little smile right there. Just nice and loose, Okay, hat. Well, how's that hat going to fit on there? It's going to have to fit, on here, right? So here's where the base of the hat would be. And so I'll just bring that up. A little Jack in the Box hat. Okay, and so then here, just drawing the cone, so making it hit the edges at least of my sphere right here. And so that's how I get that cone. And the rest is, once again, how you go about shading it. That's what's really going to make it look nice and full and fit. Maybe even give it a little texture and whatnot, right? Okay. So there was that. And then, just thinking about how maybe, I'd have a ruff around it. So here's my little shape, right, for that. And making, maybe a little bit more three-dimensional, whatever. And just thinking about, okay, that, just going back and forth with that ruffle. And thinking about, well, how would things work? As they turned in space, those things would be, you'd see the top of it, right? As it turned in space. And then you'd start seeing the side of it. And then by the time you go here, you'd be seeing more the front of it, as it goes around its little circle. And then you'd start seeing the front, and then maybe the side, but who cares, because it's going to go behind here, right? And so hopefully, I've got a pretty good little rough going in here. Once again, a lot of it has to do with how you shade it. And just think about how light falls in a straight line, and you can guess, right? Okay, I mean, you're an artist after all, just do it. Okay, so here, thinking about how the spring section of this would come back here, and going to have a little bit of a curve to it as it's hanging out, right? So I just think, okay, it's going to have a little something here, and yeah, that's going to be, I'll just have that go into the box and here, and then just try and draw that as it's coming around, just, curving down like that, just different sections of it, and how you would see that maybe slightly differently. Once again, a lot of that has to do then with the shading that you're going to get. And then the arms, I just, okay, so here's sort of a floppy motion towards the arms. And we'll just put some little mittens, little gloves, whatever, right, for the fingers. And thinking about what they'd be made out of, they'd be cloth, the ones that I've seen. Maybe it's got some sort of a little wire on the inside of it, but it's just loose cloth. There's nothing really going on in there. So there too, a lot of that's just going to depend on the shading as to how that's going to look. But the structure of it was super easy to do. Okay. So cool. So that in essence is our box, right? There's the inner pieces, there's the crank, there's the little jack-in-the-box guy. And so I guess we'll wrap this one up and we'll take a look at the candle next. There's no real surprises with the candle. It's a lot like the fountain in the drawing number 5 that we did. Okay, so let's take a look at that.